There are countless message bottles cast from unknown shores into the oceans. But only a very few of them ever reach another shore again. And of those that do, almost none carry a message. Most bottles contain nothing but sand and water. But sometimes, though very rarely, a bottle can bring a message from the farthest shore of the ocean. Just like this bottle that was cast from a German ship in 1886. In 2018, it was found on the coast of Australia with a message inside. Exactly 132 years later. And on July 1st, 2025, a bottle washed up on our side of the cosmic ocean's shore. Its name is 3I Atlas, the third visitor to come from outside our solar system, a visitor. In 2017, we saw Oumuamua, and in 2019, 2I Borisov. But this time, we're witnessing an interstellar object that sparked much more debate. Current observations show that it resembles a natural comet. However, there are some oddities. Yes, it behaves like a comet, but as it does, it constantly makes scientists wonder, what if? It makes them question things, gets them thinking, because there are some major question marks. Of course, I'm not talking about that image that's been widely shared on social media these days. None of these have been confirmed by any official institution. They're most likely artificial images created with AI tools or some editing techniques. Now, let's look at the real questions. In August, the 2-meter twin telescope in the Canary Islands detected a thin stream of gas and dust about 6,000 kilometers long. This is a situation that has been observed very rarely before. The gas and dust aren't stretching away from the sun, but directly toward it. Scientists call this an anti-tail. The Hubble Space Telescope also detected a similar phenomenon. In the images taken at the end of July, a glow was seen extending along the object's solar orbit, about 10 times longer than its width. Astrophysicist Professor Avi Loeb from Harvard University made a very striking statement about the subject. By the way, I will share the article he wrote on the topic in just a moment. There is such a detail there that I couldn't believe my eyes when I read it. I had to read it a few more times. Loeb describes the situation as follows. He says that noticing something like this is like seeing a tail coming out of your cat's forehead at home. He goes even further. He says that 3E Atlas might not be completely natural, and that this object could actually be a technological artifact disguised as a comet. In other words, he's talking about the possibility that this could be a kind of Trojan horse. There were already some question marks about the behavior of 3E Atlas anyway. For example, scientists know very well where the water on a comet will freeze and where it will start to evaporate. In fact, this is called the ice line. But 3I Atlas broke this rule. While it was still quite far from the sun, it started emitting water vapor at a distance where the water should normally remain solid. Imagine a bear waking up from hibernation in the middle of winter. That's how unexpected this situation is. Another question mark is the object's chemical signature. There's plenty of nickel in 3E Atlas, but the iron that should be present alongside it is almost non-existent. Why is this important? Because in most comets in the solar system, nickel and iron usually appear together. The disruption of this balance suggests two things. 3I Atlas either comes from a system with chemical conditions very different from ours, or its evaporation mechanism is working in an unusual way. There are also doubts about its trajectory. As it passes through our solar system, it makes surprisingly close approaches to Venus, Mars, and Jupiter. According to scientists, the probability of such an orbital alignment occurring is less than 5 in 1,000. Of course, there's also the other side of the coin. How? Some argue that 3I Atlas is a completely natural comet. The scientific community, on the other hand, is waiting for October 29th, because on that date, the object will reach its closest point to the sun, and if it breaks apart, it will be almost proven to be a natural object. NASA announced that because it will be so close to the sun at that time, the object will disappear from view, but it could become visible again at the beginning of December. So, we're either looking at an extremely rare comet, or yes, I can guess the question on your mind. Could this object actually be a spaceship? This question has been asked ever since it was first observed. It's a possibility that could cross the minds of ordinary people like you and me. Because whenever we see a strange object in the sky, we always ask that question, don't we? But this time, when it's scientists asking the question, things got a lot more confusing. I just mentioned Professor Avi Loeb's approach to the subject. The professor who said this object could be a Trojan horse, that's him. He published an article in July. Is the interstellar object 3I Atlas alien technology? Would you look at that title? This is a question being asked by a scientist, a professor. By the way, I left the link to the article in the description section. Those who are interested can check it out. It's quite a long article. But I especially want to draw attention to one section. We assume that this object could be technological and, as expected from the dark forest solution to the Fermi paradox, is probably hostile. What? Yes, when I first read it, I had exactly the same reaction. The article doesn't just assume that this celestial object could be alien technology. It also claims that it could be hostile. But it doesn't just throw this out there as a random claim. It bases it on a hypothesis. I'm sure that key phrase in the article caught your attention too. The dark forest. So, according to the article, to understand the intentions of this object, we first need to understand that great silence of the universe. Professor Avi Loeb directly points to the dark forest hypothesis as the explanation for that silence. So what is this dark forest hypothesis? Our universe is 13.8 billion years old. There are trillions of stars and countless planets in it. Even in just our own galaxy, there could be millions of potential planets where life could begin. Mathematically, the universe should be full of intelligent life. So, if that's the case, where is everybody? That's what the famous physicist Enrico Fermi asked. The question he asked in 1950 gave rise to a paradox that bears his name. The Fermi paradox. Why is it that when we press our ears to the universe, all we hear is deep silence, even though there's such enormous potential? This is the dark forest hypothesis. It's an answer to this great paradox, a thought experiment. A hypothesis. It likens the universe to a pitch-black forest. Within this forest, every civilization is like a silent hunter lying in ambush, weapon in hand. Of course, forests have their own rules. The first rule is to survive. The most basic goal of every civilization is to survive, no matter what it takes. The second rule is about the unknown. When we encounter another hunter in the forest, there are two things we can never be sure of. First, their intentions. Are they friend or foe? We can't know, can we? The second thing we can't be sure of is the technology of other civilizations. Are they more advanced than us, or are they behind? And more importantly, even if they're behind right now, there's no guarantee they won't surpass us in a few centuries. Actually, at the root of this distrust and uncertainty lies a very simple logic. Let's imagine for a moment that two civilizations encounter each other. Even if Civilization A has good intentions, it can never be sure that Civilization B understands its goodwill. And even if Civilization B does understand A's goodwill, can't be sure that A knows it understands. This cycle of doubt goes on forever, even if both sides are angels, and a true relationship of trust becomes impossible. Where there is no trust, only one option remains: to secure yourself. There's something that makes this lack of trust even more dangerous, and that's the dizzying speed of technology. Is there any guarantee that a civilization that's 1,000 years behind us technologically right now won't surpass us by leaps and bounds in just a few centuries? Just think about humanity's progress over the last 200 years. Just 2 centuries ago, we had horse-drawn carriages. Now, we're talking about artificial intelligence. So, a neighbor that seems harmless today, civilization, could turn into a threat tomorrow. When these two factors combine, the harshest truth of the jungle comes to light. The safest move is always to instantly eliminate any visible potential threat before it sees you. According to the dark forest hypothesis, that's why the universe is silent, because the one who speaks, the first civilization to reveal its existence, could become the target of all the other predators in the forest. The survivors are either those who hide forever in fear, or those who instantly snuff out every light they see. This is the ruthless logic. It triggers that question in the article published at Harvard. So, what does the third atlas mean in this forest? Is it an innocent branch that fell because of the wind, or a silent scouting stone thrown by a predator? The very question itself is more than enough to understand just how dangerous the forest is. Now you probably understand better why the word hostile was used in that article. The hostility here doesn't have to come from bad intentions. It could also be a necessity for survival. If you don't hunt, you'll be hunted. But maybe the real danger isn't the other predators in the forest. It's the fire we light in the forest. Because this fire is making us more and more visible. For example, for the last 100 years, we've been constantly sending signals into the universe without even realizing it. Our first radio broadcasts, our television signals, they're all still out there in space as photons. They haven't disappeared. For example, Hitler's opening speech at the 1936 Olympics could right now be passing through a star system 89 light years away from us. Without realizing it, we're constantly making noise in the forest. This situation sparks a debate that splits the scientific community right down the middle. Are we just going to listen to the universe? Or are we going to actively shout out that we're here? Many scientists, including Stephen Hawking, have repeatedly warned against being active in the universe. They said we should remain silent, because staying silent is staying alive. Isn't this one of the most important rules of the jungle? So what did we do? Instead of staying silent, we sent 2 space probes called Voyager 1 and Voyager 2 into the depths of the universe. And that wasn't enough. We put golden records on them. On those records, there are greetings in different languages, the sounds of our planet, our music. We have our photographs. Let's put those aside for a moment. We even wrote the coordinates of the solar system. We basically put our full address there down to the zip code. So, in the middle of the dark forest, we didn't just make noise. We basically grabbed a megaphone, well, technically a microphone, and shouted out our address at the top of our lungs. Of course, we did this with good intentions, thinking that any possible civilization out there might also have good intentions. I want to think that way too, to believe in that. But we shouldn't ignore the possibility of the opposite. Luckily, we haven't encountered a civilization that's invaded our planet so far. But the questions still remain. And that inevitably turns our eyes to the sky, to that fleeting visitor currently gliding toward us. The 3I Atlas, the third bottle from the cosmic ocean. We don't know if it contains sand or a message written on a piece of paper. While debates continue on Earth, it quietly moves toward our solar system. For now, it seems like it's not responding to us. But sometimes silence is also an answer. It might even be the best answer.